It's been a few months. It's been more than 8 months since the Buccaneers played a real game in Raymond James Stadium, but that will change this Sunday as the defending Super Bowl champions are going to come calling the Philadelphia Eagles. I am Mike Nabors, and welcome back to PewterPirates.com's podcast, A Few Extra Bucs. Shortly, our Buccaneer insider Roy Cummings will join me, along with our producer Justin Thomas, who makes all the magic happen behind the scenes. I'd like to thank our title sponsors, House of Brews. Great place. You got to go there. Lutz, Florida, Northdale, Mabry, and Van Dyke. And, of course, Sea Dog Brewing Company. Great locations in Clearwater and on the beach in Treasure Island, Florida. Let's get right to it. Justin Thomas in Salt Lake City, Utah. We pulled down a lot of good sound today from Ryan Fitzpatrick and Todd Monken. I got to say, Todd Monken has a soundbite coming up. I don't want to overplay this at all, but I'm a big fan of Todd Monken now. Just hearing what he said at today's press conference, I thought was one of the most revealing sound bites from a coach that I've maybe ever heard.
Wow, I'm anxious to hear that.
Yeah. So we got that coming up. But we have Justin and Roy. Roy, let's talk about weather first off the bat. This time a year ago, the Bucs felt pretty good about themselves. They survived Hard Knocks. They had a lot of expectations. They won their season opener, and then all of a sudden, they're not playing football. And I know football's secondary. I'm not trying to say that the wrong decision was made, but this is a football podcast, so we're going to talk about it. Their game against the Miami Dolphins was canceled. It was the right decision, but I think it affected this football team. They didn't have a bye week. You don't want a bye week in week number 2. And I think that really had an impact on this team in some ways.
Yeah, it really did. And you're looking at it from the standpoint of how it affected them long term over the course of the season, where I think they definitely got worn out and tired, and it affected them late in the season a little bit because of no bye week. That's as much of a mental grind as anything, or a mental break that they hope to get because of the grind as anything. But I'll look at it from a different standpoint. Like, my feeling of what happened last year was this was a team, the Buccaneers were a team ready to go, ready to come out of the gates. And in essence, it's like a sprinter getting a false start.
Yeah.
And I just think they kind of lost a lot of momentum coming out of that. And I don't think they ever recovered from it. It added another week to Doug Martin's suspension, and I think that affected Doug Martin, which affected their running game, which affected their offense, which never really caught fire the way it's capable of. And the defense, just continued to struggle. And, all of that, I think it affected them in a lot of ways, particularly mentally. And I just believe that you're absolutely right. I think few people really look at it. You can use it as an excuse, but I think it's a valid excuse. I just feel that the way that season started with a false start like that, having to try to rev it up again to get going in what turned out to be week 2, they never really found their rhythm after that. And I think that I think it affected them all throughout the season.
I agree 100%. Let's talk about the distractions for this football team now. They're still they're focused on the Philadelphia Eagles, but that was a huge win in the season opener. We've talked about it in our last podcast at length against the New Orleans Saints. We also had a podcast right after the game. We're going to continue to give you that kind of coverage. But right now, injuries are front and center with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Since we talked last, Vernon Hargreaves put on the injured reserve. He's out for the year. But the good news on the practice field today for the Bucs, wide receiver Deshaun Jackson and Jason Pierre-Paul back on the practice field. Now, Deshaun still could be in protocol, but still no Brent Grimes and, of course, no Vita Vea. What concerns you the most about these injuries right now?
Well, you're going to start an NFL game against the Super Bowl champions again, without your top 2 cornerbacks, more than likely, Vernon Hargreaves and Brent Grimes. You say what you want about Vernon Hargreaves, but he is the number 2 cornerback on this team. You're going to have to more than likely throw rookies out there, or Ryan Smith, who's in my opinion, not a good option. I think I'd rather see Carlton Davis go out there and learn the hard way, along with MJ Stewart. So this you've cut into your depth. You've lost your first line of cornerbacks. You're into the second group now. The Javian Elliott's, the Carlton Davises, and guys like that. And look, as much talent as I think we all believe that Carlton Davis has, you saw what happened last week when he got in there against Drew Brees. I'm not going to put Nick Foles in the Drew Brees category, but by any stretch. But at the same time, Nick Foles is smart enough to pick out the weak link on a defense and pick on him. And he may have his choices there between Carlton Davis if he plays like he did last week, and Ryan Smith if he plays like he normally does. So outside corner could be an issue. I don't know. Maybe they'll put MJ Stewart out there. My guess is they'll probably try to mix it up a little bit. But this is going to be tough. The Bucs are going to have to, they're going to really have to batten down the hatches in that secondary. The safeties are going to have to come up. They're going to have to come up with a different kind of scheme here to offset the loss of the two cornerbacks.
This is why life in the NFL is so tough. You have the first game, you look great, and Jason Light, to his credit, beefed up the defense where it needed it on the defensive line, and of course in the secondary. And right off the bat, you get hit hard and injuries in both areas. Let me throw it the other way. When you win a Super Bowl, Roy, you know this. You see it every year. And it's fitting because the Eagles come in here. Three things generally happen when you win a Super Bowl. A, you're good. B, you avoid injuries. And C, you get some breaks. Now, if you look at it in the positive side for the Bucs, maybe this is a great year for them because they caught New Orleans off guard a little bit. I think New Orleans took them for granted a little bit, but there wasn't any luck there at all. They were skillful, and they won that game. But this week, they could have had Carson Wentz. Let's say he got back, but it's Nick Foles. And Nick Foles is a guy who struggled in the preseason and didn't look great in the opener against the Atlanta Falcons. What do you think from Nick Foles this week?
Yeah, there's certainly a belief out there that Nick Foles basically just, got the hot hand last year and rode the wave into the playoffs and the Super Bowl and played good, sound, efficient football. Hasn't played that well in the preseason, was just okay, really. When you look at it, he was winning quarterback in week one, but, wasn't spectacular. But again, with the Eagles, that's all you really need. And this is something I think a lot of people have forgotten, in my opinion, about Carson Wentz. Everybody wants to, praise Carson Wentz. He's a good, solid quarterback right now. I'm not going to deny that, but the key to beating the Eagles is finding a way to score on that defense right now. I don't think the Eagles are a threat to put up 30 points or more, although against the Bucs that could happen. But yeah, Nick Foles, he's a smart quarterback. You just have to be a little bit smarter than him, and I think the Bucs have the ability to do that. Personnel-wise, they're down a couple of guys, but I think Mike Smith, he should be able to figure out a way to confuse Nick Foles and bring something at him that he hasn't seen before to put him back on his heels. That's really what has to happen there. And to be honest with you, if you really want to affect Nick Foles, get him in 3rd and long. That's where you're going to beat Nick Foles, and that means stopping the run.
You look at guys like Nick Foles and Case Keenum. They struggled for a big part of their careers, and then they catch fire sometimes. And you wonder if Nick Foles can sustain it. And if you're a Buccaneer fan, you hope it was a flash in the pan a year ago. Well, speaking of that Eagles defense, let's bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick, where I got a kick out of watching his press conference today. He's getting asked all these questions about how great he is and what a great game he has. And Fitz, Roy, he's kind of laughing at it. He doesn't get too high or too low, and that's what you like about him. He's truly a veteran. Well, Fitzpatrick was asked what he respects the most about this Eagles team and feels like they're going to have to really guard against to win this game.
They play fast. They play hard. Their front four is able to generate a lot of pressure. And that's not to say they're not going to blitz or come after you, but those guys are tough to block up. They're a really talented group and they're deep up front. And so I think if you're looking for one thing that jumps out overall, that would be the first that would come to mind.
I guess you agree with that, huh? You just talked about the D, but this Eagles, to me, it shows how good the Eagles are, Roy, that they're probably not going to miss Vinny Curry or Bo Allen. And those two guys are going to be big parts of this Bucs team. It just shows how deep they were on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, it really does. They can lose those two guys and still be as strong as they are. I mean, that's why they let them go partially. They felt like they couldn't afford to do that. That's good. They're a deep team and they're an effective team, and Ryan Fitzpatrick's right. But you know what? That's good. I mean, I think this is a good challenge for the Buccaneers. I kind of look at it a little bit differently. Everybody wants to take things, I'm scared of this, scared of that. Don't be scared of anything. The Bucs have a challenge on their hands. I'm anxious to see how that offensive line holds up, how they run the ball against that challenge, and obviously how Ryan Fitzpatrick performs against it. I think the fact that you're playing one of the better defenses, this is a big opportunity for the Buccaneers to prove yet again to doubters that we're a better team than people think we are. We can score against anybody. I'm sure that's how they're looking at it, so I'm anxious to see how they do it.
Well, to finish my point earlier, if they win this game because maybe Nick Foles didn't play well, and then let's just say next week they win on Monday night against the Steelers and Le'Veon Bell comes back in week 4, then you're starting to think it might be a special year for the Bucs, right, Roy? They start to break your way, or maybe back to your point, you shouldn't freak out about the schedule so much.
Hey, things are breaking their exact. Well, that point I will definitely agree with. I have never been a fan of or a big proponent of looking at the schedule the day it comes out and getting all worked up over it. Yeah, okay, it looks like a tough schedule. Yeah, it looks like a tough schedule based on what happened last year. But a lot of things happen over the course of an off season, and sometimes teams get better, sometimes they don't. My feeling is that usually on every team's schedule, there's 1 or 2 or 3 games that when you look at them on the day the schedule comes out, and even again on opening day, you look at it and say, oh, that's going to be a tough one. And you find out, you know what, that wasn't tough at all. And then there's a couple more where you say, oh, that should be an easy win. And you find out, you know what, this Bears team is a little bit better than we thought. Boy, look at the Rams. They're actually pretty tough. Don't want to face them. And, so everything changes. So I look at it, when you get into the season, you got to play the schedule anyway. Again, never a fan of people who go into a season looking at the schedule and being afraid of it. The Bucs are facing the three based on last year, the toughest 3 games ever to start a season in the Super Bowl era against 3 opponents. But they've already beaten one of them. The next one's coming in with an injured wide receiver and Alshon Jeffrey, a backup quarterback. And, so there's an opportunity, and you got them at home. So there's an opportunity there. And then the next team comes in, and already Ben Roethlisberger's hurt a little bit, and they don't have Le'Veon Bell. So right now, on paper, I'm saying, okay, hey, it looks like opportunities to win if I'm the Buccaneers.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go back to Ryan Fitzpatrick. I agree with everything you said right there. It'll be interesting how it plays out. Fitz Magic, I don't know who coined that, but they should copyright it because that's all I'm hearing in Tampa and around the NFL. I mean, it's Fitz Magic. It's kind of Fitz Tragic in New Orleans. They're trying to rebound from the Ryan Fitzpatrick Express. I thought it was interesting in his press conference today. He said, he heard from a lot of people, but the one that kind of stood out was Archie Manning. Texted him and said, you got to give all the credit to the Archie Manning the Manning Passing Academy. That shows how long the Manning Passing Academy's been around, Roy. That Ryan Fitzpatrick attended it back in the day when he was in college. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But Ryan Fitzpatrick talked about a lot of things at his press conference today, and I thought this was the most telling of everything that he said was kind of the evolution of him as a quarterback, and he feels he's playing the best he ever has.
I think the places where I've done well, you're able to play at the line of scrimmage a little bit. You've got some veteran guys on the outside, that kind of understand the game and can take the next step in terms of what we're trying to do. And then also I think all the different experiences I've had, I just continue to become a better player, whether people think that or see that or not. I'm better right now than I've been at any point in my career, and a lot of that is just mentally and whatever else. But there's a lot of different throws and things that are so much ingrained in you, so much muscle memory from working and doing it for a long time that truly, I feel like the older I've gotten, the better I've become.
Well, that's really telling from Ryan Fitzpatrick. I kind of feel like that's a country and western song, like I'm as good as I ever was, or so. I don't know what I'm saying here, but yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I just felt like that was very candid, and that shows how smart he is as a football player.
No, it does, and I learned early on in covering the NFL that the older you get, the smarter you get, obviously, and the game slows down for you, which is why a lot of guys are able to play past a certain age when their bodies are starting to fail them a little bit. Ronde Barber was one of those guys, for example. I think Derek Brooks was one of those guys who, you get to a point where your body's starting to break down a little bit, but you can still be effective because you know exactly where to be, exactly what's coming. You look at, look at Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl a couple years back. Look at your boy Drew Brees. I mean, Drew Brees is not the physical player. Physically, he's not the same guy. He's lost.
The funny thing, Roy, everybody talks about how old Ryan Fitzpatrick is, but he's 4 years younger than Drew Brees. Who looks older?
Yeah, I'd say Fitzpatrick.
I know it's the beard, but you know what I'm saying.
Beard. But again, the point is, as you get older, you just get smarter, and you don't need to have that fastball necessarily. You don't need to have some of the weapons that you had early on in your career, because you're smart enough to know that, well, look, there's no way I'm going to make this play, so I'm not going to throw the ball here, or there's no way we're going to make this play, so I'm not going to have us pass on this down. We're going to run the ball on this down. You make the change at the line, and you see blitzes, things like that. So these are very important aspects that, again, a lot of people don't take into consideration as players age. They usually get smarter because everything is slowed down for them in a big way.
My favorite interviews on any football team, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but have always been offensive linemen. I think offensive linemen are always the best interviews, almost from top to bottom, across the line. They're the most accessible guys, generally the most modest guys. And Ryan Jensen intrigues me because you see this in a lot of ways with offensive linemen. Man, they can be nasty football players, but when you talk to them, they're just the most gentle guys in the locker room or even after a game sometimes. And he, to me, personifies that. Here's Ryan Jensen on the offensive line for the Bucs so far, which to me is a big reason Ryan Fitzpatrick played well. We saw some flashes from Peyton Barber and obviously the great performance by the offense in New Orleans. But here's Jensen on the offensive line.
It goes to show the type of relationship we have as teammates and stuff like that. Offensive line is a very cohesive group, and I feel like even with short, limited amount of reps that we had together, we came together really well.
The Bucs have picked up some questionable free agents in the Jason Light era, but I think Ryan Jensen, when all is said and done, you may look back and say he brought a nastiness and a toughness to this offensive line. And obviously moving Marpet back helps, but Jensen could really solidify this in a lot of ways, Roy.
Yeah, he really could. The Bucs have had, they had Joe Hawley there in that spot last year and the year before, and Joe Hawley was, as tough and mean a player as there was in the NFL, but he didn't have Ryan Jensen's size and skill set. That's the difference. Is you're just talking about a slightly different caliber player. With all due respect to Joe Hawley, Ryan Jensen's Pro Bowl caliber at the center position, and the Bucs I think are going to benefit from that. And as I said before, they're going to benefit from the fact that Ryan Jensen allows them to move Ali Marpet back to guard, which is his best position. And I just think they've got a real strong unit there, particularly on the left side. We'll see how Caleb Benenoch works out alongside DeMar Dotson at right tackle. But right now, as a unit, I think this is a much stronger unit than it ever was last year, and maybe even the year before. And that's one of the reasons Ryan Fitzpatrick was so successful last week, was because the guy barely got touched, And so if you can keep your quarterback clean the way they did and open up some big holes in the running game early the way they did, you're going to make the play action fakes more effective, and you're going to make your quarterback and your passing game a lot more lethal. So that's what happened.
That's what championship football teams all have in common. They have that great play from both of their lines, and the Bucs are off to a good start on the offensive side. Let's stay on the offensive side where Roy, we talked about that season opener against the New Orleans Saints, and there's so many great stats. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick accounts for 5 touchdowns. I mean, Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans caught every ball that was thrown to them. 48 points. The last time they did that was a Super Bowl. I could go on and on and on. I'm going to get to this Todd Monken sound. Todd Monken, I don't want to overplay this, and you could call me out, but we hear so many cliches from coaches, no emotion. This is a game. I know it's a business, but it's a game, and it's a game of emotion. And I love when I hear emotion from players, and I really love it when I hear from coaches. And here's Todd Monken, the Bucs offensive coordinator, talking about the feeling after the big win in New Orleans.
I was kind of numb. When it goes like that, you're a little numb. Like, are you going to wake up? I'm serious. You're like, that doesn't happen very often. You react to it because you just reflect back to all the things that you worked on in camp and with the guys and the meetings and all those things, and talking about receivers and their releases and holding their lines and giving guys a chance and all the things you work on. You're going, boy, this is fun. This is, and you're relieved. You just are, because all the work you put into it, and to see the guys execute and see their excitement, that's what you do it for. see the reaction in the locker room and the coaches and all you put into it. So it's there's nothing like winning.
Did I ever play that, Roy? I thought that was pretty good stuff.
It is good stuff. You know what? It's good. You break it all down, and basically what he's saying there is an old cliche. It's great when a plan comes together.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. What we saw on Sunday was an example of a unit of coaches, a group of coaches putting a game plan together, and then the players going out and executing the game plan. Look, I said it before. I thought a lot more was going to be made of the whole Todd Monken calling the plays business. I'm glad a lot hasn't, because the bottom line is it doesn't matter who's calling the plays. All plays are designed to work. What happened on Sunday was the Bucs executed almost every one of those plays to perfection, and when you execute them that way, they work. And when they work that well, you win big. So, or at least you put a lot of points up and win. So that's what happened. And that's what Todd Monken is alluding to. All the little details. And you're right. First week out, that's exactly what you want to see. You want to see kind of a reward for all the time that you put in training camp, all the work that you've put in during OTAs. All that time is built up. It's built up for an entire season, but it first manifests itself in that opener. And if you can come out in the opener and execute the way they did on the offensive side of the ball, you can't help but feel like this, guys, is what we're capable of. See how it works. It proves to the players, not that anyone had a doubt, but it just proves to everyone, see, guys, it works. You follow what we ask you to do it the right way, it's going to work. This and if you get people to buy in that way, buy in consistently, it's usually going to keep on going. So you got a bunch of believers in that locker room on that side of the ball right now. What the Bucs need to do is fix the other side.
But hearing a coach say, I felt numb, I felt relieved, you don't hear that too often, Roy.
No, you don't. I don't think you overplayed it at all. That's good stuff, man. That's Todd Monken, who, look, he speaks from the heart. He's a lot like Dirk, doesn't pull punches. He's even better when you get him off to the side and don't have a microphone or a tape recorder in front of him, because he'll tell you the real deal, man. And you're right. Look, this guy was a head coach in college. My guess is he will be again at some point somewhere, because he's a good He's a good football coach. That's for darn sure.
I remember the first time I interviewed him, I was doing a college tour, one of the networks I used to work for. He was with Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. So he's well traveled. He's been around some good head coaches. Well, let's talk about Monken some more. And he went out of his way today at his press conference to say it's a collective effort. Just as you said, Roy, and I think we all know that. But Monken is adding something, and I think it's taking some pressure off of Dirk. And there is something to that. And Ryan Fitzpatrick was asked about the Monken magic today.
He does a great job. He watches so much film during the week. He's up there grinding all the time. So the other thing is just, when we meet, all the different voices in the room and everybody being on the same page. That's been nice. It's been nice to have Todd in our room a little bit more this year, now that he's not full-time with the receivers.
And to take you behind the curtain a little bit, the last sound we have from Monken, he talks about the game plan that Roy broke down really well in this podcast. What went into it and how they adjusted to it against the Saints.
I don't think we expected that much man coverage, but we did get it. So, it's not all the time sometimes you get it and you don't take advantage of it. And I thought our guys took advantage of that, and that's a credit to the players, And I really feel like it's a byproduct of how we practiced. I mean, you can see that. You guys can't always see that, but we can see that. We saw it in the preseason. We saw a lot of things being done better.
It's early, Roy, but I'm hearing about practice again. Cutter's talked about it. Now Monken's talking about it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Look, that's where it starts. I mean, usually most teams that come out and play well on Sunday will come back and tell you, we had a good week of practice. And we've seen it a lot where, the Buccaneers in particular say, we didn't have that good a week of practice, and it caught up to us today on Sunday. So, yeah, it starts in practice because, again, it's practice builds confidence. And if you're doing it right in practice and seeing the execution properly and getting the results you're looking for, you're usually going to go into the game feeling good, again, confident, not second-guessing anything that you're asked to do, and you just automatically go out there and say, yeah, I know this is going to work, so I'm going to run this route this way just like I did in practice. And guess what? If I do my job right, we're going to succeed. And so, yeah, it definitely starts in practice with guys doing what they're supposed to do and doing it the right way.
All right, before we jump in our 3 and out segment, let's touch on some topics on the defensive side of the football. Now, we've talked about injuries. Vernon Hargreaves out for the season. Boy, this secondary is really going to lean on some young players, and we don't know what's going on with Brent Grimes. He didn't practice again today. We'll find out his status. Doesn't look good for the Eagles. We will see. But I asked Levante David about, being a veteran on this defense, how can he help the secondary and kind of help this defense as a whole moving forward here with these injuries?
You've had young guys in the secondary have to step up with Grimes and now Hargreaves injuries. How has that affected this defense?
Obviously, when you got guys who have been in the system for a long time, they know what to expect. As far as defensively, it's difficult putting new guys in there. But the guys that stepped up came in and did what they were supposed to do. They've been throughout the program since OTA, so when they come in, we expect them to do their job. No, should be no drop off, and we got all the confidence in the row in those guys, and they got the confidence in themselves. That's the main thing. The guys that we did bring in that replace guys who did go down to injury. Those guys got a lot of confidence in themselves, and that's what give us confidence.
Now, one of those young guys in the secondary is rookie MJ Stewart. Now, his fellow second-rounder, Carlton Davis, got his first start in New Orleans and suffered some growing pains, but Dirk Cutter said that's what you expect against the future Hall of Famer Drew Brees, and he felt like he got better during that game. If you haven't seen it on PewterPirates.com, we have a rookie diary every week with MJ Stewart, and we've continued it during the regular season. We're going to debut the whole thing on our website tomorrow, but I caught up with MJ one-on-one and talked to him about the Hargreaves injury and the added playing time he's going to see now.
How much do you feel for Vernon right now?
I feel a lot for him. He's playing very well, like he always does. And, it's sad to see any teammate get hurt.
The veterans on this defense, with all the injuries to the secondary, have they helped you guys a little bit in terms of game planning and the little things and getting ready for games?
Yeah, they have. They have a lot. So.
In what ways?
Just helping us, making sure we, getting the right film study, just making sure we stay in our book, just staying on top of things.
That's his thoughts on Vernon Hargreaves. Roy, we talk about the secondary and the banged-up defensive line. It seems like the linebacker is always that solid core of this defense.
Yeah, it is, and it's got to be, and it may have to be again. I'll tell you, we may see some moving around here. I don't know if it happens now, but we may see the BUCS think about moving one of these linebackers into a safety spot. Kind of a strong safety in the box kind of thing. They're going to have to adjust, in my opinion, to these losses with the cornerbacks. And one of those changes might be Justin Evans coming in, playing in the slot a little bit, which allows MJ Stewart and Carlton Davis to be on the outside as opposed to Ryan Smith being in one of those spots. That's going to force another safety to come on board. Who knows? Maybe they try to bring back Keith Tandy if he's out on the street. That might make some sense at this point.
He was actually picked up this week, yeah.
And it's possible one of the linebackers, could come back and maybe play a little safety. I think some of these guys probably have that ability when you consider the style linebackers that the BUCS have. So I won't be surprised if come Sunday, if the guys are missing that we're expecting. Certainly Vernon Hargreaves won't be there if Brent Grimes doesn't make it either, or if another injury hits. We see some kind of a shifting of some of these guys. Somebody's going to have to learn to play a little bit different position maybe, or at least maybe a little bit different technique in order to make up for the losses.
Yeah, the Falcons see your line of thinking. They picked up Keith Tandy this week. So a lot of teams in the NFL are fighting this. I mean, the Falcons have had some big-time injuries to their defense as well. So the BUCS aren't alone, but it's never easy if you're an NFL team. Well, we're heading towards the finish line. Justin, you know what time that is, right?
I do.
Three and out, baby. Roy Cummings' favorite theme song takes him back to when he was a youngster. Game show watching fool back in the day. Hasn't dropped an Eddie Haskell or Bachelor line on us. I tend to learn something about Roy Cummings every time we do these three and outs, so I look forward to it. This is three questions, and Roy Cummings and everybody is out of here. And you know what? He doesn't know these questions, so that's why he doesn't really know anything we do in this podcast, that we're all spontaneous. That's what makes a good podcast. That's why we're gaining steam. We appreciate everybody's support with us. All right, number one in our 3 and outs. Who was the bigger winner in week 1 for the Bucs? Ryan Fitzpatrick or Todd Monken?
As much as we want to praise Todd Monken and his play calling, it's got to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. This is a guy that a lot of people around the league doubted. If the Bucs had been playing the Jets, the Jets would have thought they would have had a great opportunity, or Jets fans would have thought the same. I mean, nobody gave Ryan Fitzpatrick much of a chance. Look, most everybody thought the Buccaneers were going 0-3 to start the season because of this tough 3 games they got to start the season, and because Ryan Fitzpatrick was the quarterback. Well, Ryan Fitzpatrick proved that their backup quarterback is not their weakest link. That's not even close. Not on offense. It's going to have to be found somewhere else, whatever that weakest link on offense is, because it's not the backup quarterback. Given a game plan that works, given proper execution by the players around him, Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to do one heck of a job for you as your quarterback, no matter what position he's in. And whether it's a backup starter, coming in late in the game to fill in for an injured guy or whatever, he's going to give you an opportunity to win. And my guess is he's already got the Buccaneers thinking about what do we do come week 4. So he's the big winner here.
Is there an offensive weak link?
Yeah, there is. Caleb Benenoch, more than likely, the right guard. Really not his natural position. He's really just kind of filling the hole there. Look, I love DeMar Dotson, but I don't know how efficient he is at this point in his career. So I would say that's the weak link right now. It's the right side of the offensive line. But again, I said earlier that as a unit they played very well. Let's see how they play over the course of a few games as opposed to one.
Guys, couldn't we make some money to go out and print some Fitz Magic shirts or Fear the Beard? I mean, if I'm a Bucs fan, I'd buy one of those walking into Ray J for the home opener. Just sell it across the street. You don't have to worry about copyright. You can make some bucks doing that, couldn't you?
I have a feeling you'll be seeing a lot of them now.
It's like Who Dat shirts in New Orleans. My friend Bobby Hebert, I used to kid him at training camp. He hosts a radio show and, of course, the ex-Falcons and Saints quarterback. He must have 1 million shirts that say Who Dat in some form or fashion. He must. I mean, he just send them every day.
This is the week to do it, Mike. Because if this is the week to do it, coming off that great game, if I'm going to a Bucs game this weekend, I'm buying a Ryan Fitzmagic T-shirt, man. This is the week to do it. Fear the Beard.
You could put Ryan Fitzpatrick's face on one of those old swashbuckler helmets. He would fit right in. Just put his face there. I mean, there's so many marketing ideas. Yeah. I don't know if anybody's copyrighted Fitzmagic. It's almost like what Pat Riley with the 3-peat or 2-peat or whatever he had. I mean, if you copyright that, go for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Number 2 in our 3 and out. You've been a part of this for a long time, Roy, but they gave away the Good Guy Award today in the Bucs locker room to the guy who's really the best interview, who's the best to the media. You're familiar with this, of course.
Yep, sure am.
Cameron Brate won, and boy, it's tough to argue. Cam Brate, great, smart, great soundbite, great after a win or a loss. He won the award, but if you couldn't give it to Cam Brate, the best interview on this Bucs team, who'd you give it to?
Well, the
most accessible.
Previous winners include DeMar Dotson, Mike Evans. Funny, it's all offense. I'll tell you what. Well, Gerald McCoy won it once, so I can't give it to guys who've received it already. I think I would probably give it to Levante David, because Levante David is always there for us when we need him. He's there. Him or Quan Alexander. Both of those guys are stand-up guys. They know their role as leaders on this team, and they know that it's often on them to be there and be spokesman for the defense. And so I'm going to lean over to the defensive side again, and I would give it to one of those two.
Mike Evans, I know he's been given the award. Man, he is good. Mike Evans always talks and always shows up in the locker room, which they don't have to do. And MJ Stewart, I love MJ Stewart, but he's got to earn his stripes. I'm going to give you a wild card. I don't think a lot of people know this, but we've talked about it in the podcast. And I feel for Vernon Hargreaves in a lot of ways because he was having not a great season, but he was having a good camp and off to a good start. But Vernon Hargreaves, I'll never forget the interview, and we've talked about this, came over one-on-one after practice in the indoor facility, talked to us for our video wrap on pewterpirates.com. I asked him some tough questions about the critics and all that, and he answered every one. So I will say this, though. There's not really – I mean, on a lot of football teams, you have a couple guys you want to avoid. I can't think of any on this Bucs team. It's a good locker room to cover.
Yeah, it really is. You're absolutely right about that. We're blessed with this group. We don't have too many guys that give you the high hat. So, no, we're very fortunate here. Got a great group of guys, and, it's good. It's good for everybody. Good for the fans.
Exactly. All right, our last three now. We'll bring Justin in for this too. We like to mix pop culture in with football. We're not all just football here. We'd like, to expand our audience. I got an email the other day for the Paul McCartney tour this year, and I know you've seen him how many times, Roy? Twice?
3 times.
Oh, 3 times. Nice. All right, I want to ask you guys this, and obviously you can't say Paul McCartney, but I'd love to see Paul McCartney. I've never seen him. But there's got to be a concert out there or a performer that you've never seen that you would like to see. And is there one that really stands out? Justin, you want to go first?
Yeah, the one band.
We didn't rehearse this.
The one band I have yet to see. It's probably one of my favorite bands, and probably pretty soon. If I don't do it, I won't have a chance much longer. But it would be the Beach Boys.
Nice. I know that's your favorite. You never seen them, huh?
No, I haven't. I actually they played at Jazz Fest many years ago, and I almost went, decided not to, and I've kicked myself ever since.
I saw the Beach Boys. I saw the Beach Boys as the it was a post-game act for a UCF homecoming football game.
Wow.
Way back before UCF was the UCF that it is now. This is back when they were a Division II school, playing at the Citrus Bowl. And the Beach Boys were the post-game homecoming, concert, and that was a thrill.
Wow, lean times for the Beach Boys back then.
Yeah, sure was. It was around, just after the Kokomo stuff and all that.
Oh yeah, So
they actually had a hit, but they were having a hard time getting gigs, I'm thinking.
I like Kokomo, by the way. What you have a concert you've I'll give you tickets and you can go to one that you've never seen.
Well, is it a band that we can only see now? Because it would be the Beatles, but because I never saw the Beatles together live. Right.
You could create your own rules, Roy. Whatever you want.
But boy, I'll tell you. I mean, I've seen I've seen a lot that I'm trying to think of what I'd like to see that I haven't. I saw The Who. I've seen the Rolling Stones. I've seen U2. Here we go.
U2 is fabulous.
REM.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because I want to make it a band that's still around.
Right.
I know that they haven't done much in a long time, but since the Beatles, since that we'd have to be in Fantasyland for that to happen. I'll make it REM.
Roy, did you see any of the Beatles when they went solo? Like, had you seen them live, like Paul McCartney or?
Yeah, I saw McCartney. I've seen McCartney 3 times and Ringo Starr. I never saw Lennon, and I never saw George Harrison play.
Oh wow!
Did Ringo Starr play at halftime at UCF too?
No, that was the All-Star Band. One of his All-Star Band tours, and I'll tell you what. It was a hell of a fun show.
I know. I'm ripping on your boy. I'm sorry. I'm going to show you my music range with mine. You guys may be surprised by this. All right. I never saw Van Halen. And I know, I love Van Halen growing up, but David Lee Roth is just, he just can't do it anymore. Mm. And I like him with David Lee Roth. I saw David Lee Roth on a solo tour way back in the 80s, and I saw him with Hagar, but I never saw him with David Lee Roth. So I don't know if that'll ever happen. But here's the guy I'd really like to see the most. And he was at Jazz Fest too recently, Justin. I love this guy. I'm a big Tom Petty. I'm a big Billy Joel, but he's on my Mount Rushmore. I love Stevie Wonder, man. I love him.
Yeah. Hard to knock that.
And you know what? I don't know if – I think he has I saw Lionel Richie in Vegas recently, but Stevie – some of those guys go to Vegas and they play for a while. If he goes to Vegas and does that, I'm there. I love Stevie Wonder. To me, it's amazing – how many hit songs that guy has. It's incredible.
Yeah, it really is. That's a mic drop right there. I mean, I think you the Beach Boys are pretty good, but you blew out REM on mine. And I think REM is, that's as solid a band as we've had since the 90s, or 80s.
Well, I'm glad I didn't overplay the Monken. Yeah, but I will tell you this. I'll leave our podcast listeners, if you've stayed this long, and we're almost 40 minutes in, we really appreciate it. Do I Do by Stevie Wonder. That's my favorite song of all time. Just saying.
All
Do
right.
I Do.
You should have told me. I would have played that out.
Yeah. I'd like to have heard that.
Yeah. So, when you're off, you can Google it. And if your viewers like it, give us your feedback. But
Well, since we're on that subject, My Sharia More. That's mine right there.
Yeah. Got so many, man.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And given the setbacks he's had in his life, the attitude that guy has and the fact that he's still working hard, it's really amazing. But anyway, all right, from Todd Monken to Stevie Wonder to REM to the Beach Boys, we covered it all, guys. Good job. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, you got it.
It's been fun.
Always.
All right, guys. That's another rendition of A Few Extra Bucs. Please subscribe to pewterpirates.com. We're picking up steam, especially this podcast. Really jumping in terms of people listening. We're on iTunes now, so we appreciate that. We have our latest video wrap previewing the Eagles game. We'll release our MJ Stewart Rookie Diary tomorrow on Friday. So thanks for logging on. We'd like to thank our title sponsors, House of Brews and Sea Dog Brewing Company. Great brews, great food, tremendous service. We'll see how these Bucs fare against the Eagles. We'll recap it after the game, and we'll have 2 podcasts each week. Thanks again for logging on. pewterpirates.com. This is A Few Extra Bucs.